You see this? You see this right here? This is why we can't get anything done. This is why we can't get anything done. Right here. Alright, so basically this is, I guess, a response or reaction, if that's a thing now, reaction videos, to the Gun Collective's chat last night, the Yankee Marshal's chat last night, and Never Enough Ammo's chat following Yankee's chat. I'll try and save you all several hours. Basically, the Gun Collective hosted a roundtable discussion that was propped up as being talking about the NRA and what people should do, you know, given that a lot of people are unhappy with the NRA. It was supposed to talk about, you know, the current state of gun rights and how there are several bills coming out that could, in fact, strip us of all our rights, or most of them, and just overall discussing, you know, the current state of things. It was supposed to be a who's who of YouTube, and to be honest, the only people that you'd ever heard of was Military Arms Channel, Iraq Veteran 8888, and the Gun Collective. Everybody else was, I mean, perhaps people have heard of them, but I've never heard of them, and a lot of people that were listening had never heard of them either. Now, at the same time, the Yankee Marshal was hosting a counter discussion where they were, you know, providing feedback, you know, in real time, and just overall, you know, curious to hear the chat live time and, you know, give their opinions. And to be honest, if you had the choice, if you're only going to watch one, I would watch the Yankee Marshal's chat, because they brought up more good points than the Gun Collective did. Overall, I feel like all the Gun Collective did was spin their wheels and go nowhere. Let's see, it was hosted by John Patton, and the funny thing was anytime somebody tried to ask one of the hard questions, you know, such as what do we do with the NRA, you know, what, you know, it's a long-standing organization that in the past 20 years really hasn't done anything to help the common gun owner. You know, they've done nothing to support, you know, the Second Amendment fight and upholding, you know, basically what the Constitution granted us. And at one point, in fact, the one interesting thing was someone I had never heard of before, an Adam Kraut, doesn't matter. I have his name labeled as something I probably can't say on camera. He spent about 10 minutes of his time talking about, well, the way to change the NRA is to join up and become a life member of the NRA and pay them their money, and then you know, in 5 years or whatever, however it works, then you get to vote. Well, that's, you know, my personal opinion is the way to fix the NRA is do absolutely nothing. If you don't support the NRA, then don't support them. That's how I feel. I would love nothing more than to support the NRA and be a proud member and have, you know, the sticker on my window and be a proud member of an organization that's out there fighting for our gun rights and fighting for our freedoms. The fact of the matter is, from what I've seen in the last 20 years, they're doing none of that. They've turned into, you know, an organization profiteering and basically leeching off of the American gun owner. So, to me, that for a discussion that was supposed to be, you know, open-ended and everybody, you know, was supposed to say their piece, 90% of it was pro-NRA, you know, propaganda. I'm all for people that support the NRA. I don't have any problem with them doing so. But in a discussion where you're supposed to be debating that, to have someone basically play an infomercial for the NRA, I don't believe that that's right. The other thing that was interesting was, you know, as I said, the Yankee Marshal was hosting a counter chat with Never Enough Ammo and gun websites, and I watched all three, the chat, the counter chat, and then the discussion afterwards. And I gotta say, the Yankee Marshal brought up several good points about the chat and how they weren't getting anything done. They weren't touching on any of the big topics that are controversial. And I thought it was very interesting that the gun collective, in fact, banned several people, including the Yankee Marshal, for asking questions about, the NRA and everything. And in fact, I had a brief comment, I guess you could call it a comment war, I don't know what you want to call it, between, I believe the guy's name is Izzy from the Gun Collective, where I said in the comment sections after the video, I'm like, you banned a bunch of people, you never did actually really get down into the meat of discussing the NRA. And his response was, oh, the only people I banned were people that were swearing and cursing and being rude and such. I'm sure you can read the comment if you go onto their video before they delete it and ban me, which was exactly the opposite. People were asking legitimate questions. People came to that chat expecting the discussion of what do we do with the NRA. They're a large organization. They, in the right hands, could be a very useful, powerful organization for gun rights. And at this point, they are just a profiteering endeavor. So my personal opinion of it is, forget the NRA. You know what? Let them go be what they want to be. They won't be getting any of my money. The one person in the chat I do want to commend was Mac Military Arms Channel. He several times brought up and said what needed to be said. He discussed the fact that, they were talking about, we need to sit down and discuss things with the other side, and, which I'm all for. I'm all for educating people. I'm all for discussing it and trying to, help people understand and help people make a educated decision. But he brought up the fact that, there is no compromise. The entire point of the Second Amendment and the Constitution, they brought up the whole shall not be infringed. So that's the point. And in the chat after the debate, which was hosted by, I believe, Never Enough Ammo, they talked about just that. They said for the last 200 years or for the last, however many years, we've compromised as gun owners. We've fallen back, and not once, or at least in very small moments, have we gained back any ground. The current bills are basically designed, they're so open-ended that they could eliminate any semi-automatic rifle if, depending upon, how the law falls once, if this happens to pass, which hopefully it doesn't. So I really got to commend him for bringing up those topics. I thought it was, it was nice to hear a voice that actually spoke for the American gun owner and not someone that you felt like wasn't a paid NRA spokesperson. Like I said, the video to watch would have been the Yankee Marshals, because more topics got brought up and discussed in that one than the main gun collective chat. And then what was really interesting, which I know it ran quite long, was Never Enough Ammo's discussion afterwards, discussing the chat, discussing everything. And I just feel that sadly it's divided gun owners even more, at least over the over YouTube. I know there's probably several million gun owners that, you know, have never heard of YouTube, don't know what YouTube is, and, you know, such. But overall, I feel it was a very disappointing night for the American gun owner, because nothing got talked about. In fact, the only good thing that I heard in the main gun collective chat was they talked about calling your representative, calling your state, you know, capital, calling your senator, you know, call the politicians, you know, who are making the decisions, and let them know, as an American citizen, how you feel. Let them know what you want done and what you don't want done, and let them know that you're not happy with what they're doing currently. And actually, the one interesting thing was there was talks of, in the discussion afterwards, you know, about, you know, marching on the Capitol again, peaceful marches, you know, not what you used to see on the internet, where you see, you know, somebody smashing up a car and doing this, but peaceful marches where, you know, we come out in force and show, you know, the people watching that, you know, we are in fact a large group of people, you know, that we're not the fringe element, that we are a large group, and that we can be, you know, a peaceful movement. And overall, I think that was probably the best idea of the night. Certainly better than anything the gun collective and their NRA spokesman came up with.